Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Jack Catterall and Liam Parrow. But one fighter in that division that I don't think gets mentioned enough is Gustavo Daniel Lemos, also known as the Argentine Mike Tyson. When a fighter gets compared to Mike Tyson, you think power, speed, ferocity, danger, knockouts and the skill to go with it. And from watching Gustavo Lemos, you can tell that he reflects that style very well. So who is he and what makes him so good? If you're watching this video from Argentina, like the video. If you're not, like it anyway. Gustavo Daniel Lemos was born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He turned professional at the age of 20, and you can see from his early fights that his style has always been rough as it is today. He doesn't fight entirely like a traditional pressure boxer. He uses a sort of hybrid defence, switching between a Philly shell and a high guard. The high guard being a tactic used by many other Argentinian boxers, such as Marcos Maidana, Brian Castaño and Fernando Martinez. Most of Lemos' opponents tend to fight very defensively on the back foot because they know how dangerous he is and the amount of heat that Lemos puts into his punches. A few boxers have tried to stand and brawl with Lemos. Some last longer than others, but ultimately it never ends well because no one can take the power of Lemos straight on and survive. My favourite performance of Lemos on his way up would have to be his fight against Yeison Gonzalez, who happens to be a Devin Haney lookalike. The fight taking place in 2019 and being a brutal display of Martinez breaking down a taller opponent. He showed good defence, but what I liked in particular was the body shots. Listen to the sound it makes.
19 espectacular de Lemos. El de Tres Arroyos a la izquierda. Ataque. Buena preparación mostrando el argentino. Puede resistir González.
Lemos puts such a dangerous amount of force into those hooks, and you can see why he gets as many knockouts as he does. Because whenever Lemos is pressuring, he's putting on full intensity at all times. He would then drop Gonzalez early into the second round, drop him for a second time with a right cross, and then finish him with a beautiful combination.
Le duelen las manos abajo a Jason, derecha arriba y a la lona, y es todo. Se acabó.
At this point, Lemos had gathered a record of 27 wins and 0 losses. The only issue is he'd not fought once outside of Argentina, and he's not fought anyone with a name at this point. So that step up came in the shape of Lee Selby. Selby had been a world-class fighter for just under a decade, best known for his war with Josh Warrington, and he was a proven, tough, veteran boxer. Selby had never been stopped and only suffered one knockdown in his career. So Lemos' mission became simple, to be the one to knock out Lee Selby. He starts the fight as he usually does, stalking Lee Selby with his shell guard, catching his jabs and exploding suddenly when he sees a chance to fire. At this point, Lemos was playing the aggressive counterpuncher, throwing a right hand over the top whenever he saw Lee Selby throw out his lead hand. He knew Lee Selby's strength was his defensive footwork, so whenever Selby's against the ropes, he aims to target the body to slow him down. Regardless of the step up in competition, Lemos approached this fight with the same lack of respect for his opponent's power, just like he had with his previous opponents. Lemos would swing and miss on occasion, but he'd continue to be relentless and track down Lee Selby for the entirety of the fight. And Lemos made it a point to really hammer the body at the end of each round, so he could put a dent in Selby's footwork, because that was the only thing keeping him alive at this point. At the start of round 3, it became clear that those body shots were taking a toll, because Selby's footwork became less agile, and he was getting hit cleaner than he was before. This gave Lemos some confidence, but also led to the first real bit of adversity that he'd had to face in the fight. At the end of round 3, he'd back Selby into a corner, but he'd neglect his defence, and he'd a clean right hand on the chin from Selby, which would rock him and send him backwards at the end of the round. But what this showed us was Lemos' ability to recover, because at the start of round 4, he started off basically the same as he'd started in the previous 2 rounds, as if nothing had happened. And it wasn't long before he had Selby up against the ropes, unloading combinations, finally knocking down Selby with a shot to the body in round 4. Selby beat the count and made it to round 5, but Lemos landed another shot straight to the liver, putting Selby down for the second time. Selby bravely beat the count again but ate another shot to the body, which sank him to the canvas and ended the fight. This meant that Lemos could now take a real legitimate opponent in the top 10, which came in the form of Richards and Hitchins. Hitchins was the A-side coming into this fight, who was a very promising undefeated contender. A lot of people were tipping him to be the future at 140 pounds. He was quick, sharp, athletic, had a great jab and great movement, and for that reason he was a big favourite going into the fight with Lemos. Not many people knew Lemos at this point, but those who did knew it would be a very tough fight for him. Lemos would start as he always does, deceptively patient but then exploding suddenly. And Hitchins immediately started to clinch. Hitchins, being the taller fighter, would have the majority of his success with the jab. Lemos being inactive at distance, allowing Hitchins to work the jab, but then letting his hands go whenever he closed the distance. That kind of flurry in the corner is exactly why Hitchins would clinch for the majority of the fight. Whenever Lemos would land a right hand or look like he was about to throw, Hitchins would clinch. Hitchins would have most of his success in the mid-rounds, taking advantage of Lemos' lack of intensity, keeping him at bay with the jab and the lead hand, until round 8 began, because Lemos seemed to have been saving his energy, as he cracks Hitchins on the chin with a left hook right hand, forcing Hitchins to retreat and hold on at every chance he got. This is where the controversy comes in, because at this point, the referee should have at least warned or taken a point away from Hitchins for deliberate, consistent holding. His chin would surprisingly hold up to a lot of these power punches, but after this point there's very minimal offense offered from Hitchins, as Lemos continued to hunt for the right hand, and Hitchins continued to clinch, all the way till the final bell at the end of the 12th round, where most people thought Lemos deserved to win the fight. That was until all 3 judges gave the fight to Hitchins, one judge giving Hitchins 9 out of 12 rounds. So after the decision, it brings us to the present day. Lemos decided being a big underdog in a really risky fight wasn't enough, because he wanted to do it twice, against Keyshawn Davis, who I see is even better than Hitchins. Lemos has taken on Keyshawn Davis November 8, and since Keyshawn is elite level, I'm concerned Lemos may lose this one. But the difference between Keyshawn and Hitchins is that Keyshawn will not clinch, at least not as much as Hitchins, because he's willing to stand and trade, which I think will make for an incredible fight. Tune in Friday 8th of November. Like the video. Goodbye.